Angel.
One of the greatest threats in America today is the weaponization of the U.S. government against the American people. This week, Merrick Garland was called to testify in front of Congress about the two-tiered justice system. And what we found out is that Merrick Garland is a liar. Merrick Garland is the U.S. Attorney General. This is the top government lawyer in the country, and he is responsible for everything that goes on in the Justice Department. He sets the policies, he makes the major decisions. So I was very interested this week to hear what he had to say.
And our job is to uphold the rule of law. That means we apply the same laws to everyone. There is not one set of laws for the powerful and another for the powerless, one for the rich and another for the poor, one for Democrats and another for Republicans, or different rules depending upon one's race or ethnicity or religion. Our job is to pursue justice without fear or favor. Our job is not to do what is politically convenient.
How could he say that with a straight face? They do not have two standards of justice? Really? Then explain to me why 4 out of 5 Americans believe there is a two-tier system of justice. This was from a poll by the Trafalgar Group taken 1 month before the FBI raid on Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Attitudes have only gotten worse since then. A poll last month from the Associated Press says that only 2 in 10 U.S. adults say they have a great deal of confidence in the people running the Justice Department. That's horrible. But Merrick Garland sees no issues whatsoever in how the Justice Department is conducting itself. I have a big problem with his statement. Either he's incompetent or he's a liar. Now, no one thinks he's incompetent. He has a long career as a prosecutor and a judge. He knows what he's doing. So that means he is a liar. He is lying in front of Congress under oath. Let's just look at the most obvious example. The Justice Department has been protecting Joe Biden while at the same time aggressively going after Biden's top political opponent, Donald Trump. That's two tiers of justice. Trump's home was raided by the FBI over classified documents. When Joe Biden was found to also have classified documents, was his home raided by armed FBI agents? No. Trump is being prosecuted in cases across the country while whistleblowers are coming forward and saying that Merrick Garland is obstructing justice in his own cases against Hunter Biden. I could go on and on with examples here. The public sees the corruption at the Department of Justice, which is why their polls are so bad. Merrick Garland clearly knows about all these examples. For him to sit there and say there is no evidence the Department of Justice is giving unfair treatment to Republicans is absurd. Our country is based on laws. It relies on people being able to be treated fairly in court. But that's not what's happening, and it should scare everyone. It certainly looks like prosecutors are charging people for crimes based on their political beliefs. I think this next part is important. In his opening statement, Merrick Garland talked about his grandmother coming to America and how her siblings died in the Holocaust during World War II.
My family fled religious persecution in Eastern Europe at the start of the 20th century. My grandmother, who was one of 5 children, born in what is now Belarus, made it to the United States, as did 2 of her siblings. The other 2 did not. Those 2 were killed in the Holocaust. And there is little doubt that but for America, the same thing would have happened to my grandmother. But this country took her in, and under the protection of our laws, she was able to live without fear of persecution. That protection is what distinguishes this country from so many others. The protection of law, the rule of law, is the foundation of our system of government. Repaying this country for the debt my family owes, for our very lives, has been the focus of my entire professional career. That is why I served in the Justice Department under 5 different attorneys general under both Democratic and Republican administrations. That is why I spent more than 25 years ensuring the rule of law as a judge, and that is why I left a lifetime appointment as a judge and came back to the Justice Department 2.5 years ago. And that is why I'm here today. I look forward to your questions.
What I have to say to Merrick Garland is wipe away those crocodile tears. I think it is really disgusting that he's using his grandparents as a way to deflect any criticism of his own corruption. If he gets challenged, he brings up his family's history. Clearly, he did not learn the lessons of his own family. Does he realize that people around the country are referring to the FBI as Biden's Gestapo? People are comparing the FBI to the secret police force in Nazi Germany. I don't remember the Justice Department ever having as bad of a reputation as it does under Merrick Garland. Doesn't he see the irony of talking about his family's deaths during the Holocaust when the FBI is being described as Nazis? In fact, he doesn't think there's a problem. It is shameful that he is using his family to cover up his own corruption. And he did a lot of covering up. Most of the questions during his testimony were about the case against Hunter Biden. Merrick Garland refused to answer any of those questions, claiming it was an ongoing investigation and that the prosecutor he appointed, David Weiss, had authority over the case. So Merrick Garland had no idea what was going on. Here's an example of his response.
With whom did Mr. Weiss have those discussions?
I'm not going to get into the internal deliberations of the department.
But you must, sir. This is important for us. We have oversight responsibility over your department, and we need these answers.
As appropriate and necessary for Mr. Weiss to have conversations with the department. I made clear that if he wanted to bring a case in any jurisdiction, he would be able to do that. The way you do that is to get an order signed by the Attorney General called a 515 order. I promised he would be able to do that, and he in his letters made clear he understood he would be able to do that.
Okay. Can you tell us about any briefings or discussions that you personally have had with Mr. Weiss regarding any and all federal investigations of Hunter Biden?
I'm going to say again, I promised the Senate that I would not interfere with Mr. Weiss.
So you have not, I'm just under oath today, your testimony is you have not had any discussions with Mr. Weiss about this matter?
Under oath, my testimony today is that I promised the Senate I would not intrude in his investigation. I do not intend to discuss the internal Justice Department deliberations, whether or not I had them.
Oh, okay. So your testimony today is you're not going to tell us whether you've had discussions with Mr. Weiss.
So Merrick Garland says he would not interfere. But he also admits he had conversations with Mr. Weiss. But those conversations apparently did not interfere. Well, I think he is lying. There are emails from whistleblowers with Mr. Weiss saying that he did not have the authority to move forward. The whistleblowers claim Mr. Weiss was blocked, and Merrick Garland says that he was not blocked. Someone is lying. Who do you believe? Either way, why can't Merrick Garland provide an explanation as to why Donald Trump's cases are being fast-tracked to make them happen before the election, but the Biden cases are being slow-walked? Why is that happening? Isn't that a little strange? Let's go through some of the facts, just so you understand how crooked this all is. The statute of limitations for the tax fraud charges against Hunter Biden just expired. Hunter Biden received millions of dollars from working at Burisma in Ukraine. During the same time, Joe Biden threatened to withhold aid to Ukraine unless they would fire the prosecutor who was investigating Burisma. Hunter Biden did not report any of the money that he earned at Burisma as revenue to the IRS and did not pay any taxes. The evidence is crystal clear. Hunter Biden owed taxes. He did not pay any taxes. Then the Department of Justice offered a plea deal that was so ridiculous that the judge threw it out. This is how Merrick Garland responds to a question about the plea deal.
Just a matter of weeks ago, a federal judge found the actions of now special prosecutor to be so outside what he could agree to that he pushed back on a plea settlement and nullified it and sent the U.S. attorney going back. In light of that, don't you think it's appropriate for that portion to be considered a pre-ongoing investigation and for Congress to legitimately look at the activities leading up to that failed plea bargain rather than wait until weeks, months, or years from now a case is fully settled?
Yeah. So if you'll give me a chance, first, I don't agree with the characterization of what happened in the plea. The district judge performed her obligations under Rule 11 to determine whether the parties were in agreement as to what each had agreed to and determined that they were not. Plea fell apart, as you know.
So he claims that the deal fell apart because the parties were not in agreement. That is a flat-out lie. The judge threw out the plea deal because it was clearly corrupt. The Department of Justice offered to settle the case with no jail time for Hunter and a promise that they would not prosecute him for any other crimes. Then, once the plea was thrown out, instead of moving forward, the Department of Justice sat on the case so long that the statute of limitations expired and Hunter Biden can no longer be charged with the tax crimes. So here's a question for you. Do you think it is fair that the president's son does not have to pay anything in taxes? Do you think that if you or I failed to report millions of dollars on our taxes and the IRS had crystal clear evidence of that they would decide to not prosecute you? No, of course not. You would be in jail. That is why this is a two-tiered justice system. Nothing happened to Hunter Biden because he is the president's son. This whole situation with Hunter Biden is a complete failure by the Department of Justice. And all Merrick Garland has to say is no comment. Well, I'm sorry. That's not acceptable. He is the person responsible for running the department, and it's not working. Let's move on to Hunter Biden's art. Republicans and Democrats have questioned whether it is ethical for Hunter Biden to sell his art with no oversight. Here is the response.
So Hunter Biden is selling art to pay for his $15,000 a month rent in Malibu. How can you guarantee that the people buying that art aren't doing so to gain favor with the president?
The job of the Justice Department is to investigate criminal allegations. You have information.
Are you investigating this? I mean, someone who bought Hunter Biden's art ended up with a prestigious appointment to a federal position. Doesn't it look weird that he's become this immediate success in the art world as his dad is president of the United States? Isn't that odd?
I'm not going to comment about any specific...
Not going to comment, not going to investigate. So
right.
Hunter Biden associate Devin Archer told us that Hunter sold the appearance of access to then Vice President Biden. Are you confident he has stopped doing that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Hunter Biden associate Devin Archer told us that Hunter sold the appearance of access to then Vice President Biden. Are you confident he has stopped?
I'm going to say again that all these matters are within the purview of Mr. Weiss.
Once again, he is a liar. He is responsible for investigating potential corruption by the president's family. And we have evidence of at least one incident from someone who bought the art and then ended up in a cushy appointment from the president. What other shady things are going on here? We don't even know how many paintings he sold. Why isn't Merrick Garland investigating this? Then Merrick Garland was asked about his appointment of Jack Smith to prosecute Donald Trump. This was Merrick Garland's decision alone, so he needs to be able to justify his choice of Jack Smith. This is what he says.
I said before, and I will say again, Mr. Weiss was the Republican-appointed United States Attorney appointed by President Trump.
Do you at least see the obvious double standard applied in these two appointments?
Mr. Weiss was a Republican appointee. Mr. Smith is not registered to either party. His entire career was as a career prosecutor.
I'm not asking what their party registrations are. I'm asking about their records and how those records would commend them to the appointments that you made. This is a question of judgment and it's a question of motive. What was motivating you to do this?
Mr. Smith had a nationwide reputation for integrity and for appropriate prosecution. His work can be measured by what he actually has filed. Everyone in the country can see the indictment.
How can you say that after he was so heavily implicated in the IRS scandal or the rebuke that the Supreme Court gave and many other examples? But let me go on.
Once again, he is a liar. Jack Smith has a well-known career of prosecuting politically motivated cases. He was involved in the Lois Lerner scandal at the IRS, where the IRS was targeting Tea Party groups for audits based on their politics. Then, Jack Smith was the prosecutor for the case against Republican Virginia Governor Robert McDonnell. The case was overturned unanimously by the Supreme Court, and Jack Smith was publicly rebuked for bringing a politically motivated case. This is the guy who is known for using the court system as a weapon to attack Republicans. And this is supposedly to be the unbiased choice of Merrick Garland? Liar! Jack Smith's experience shows that Merrick Garland picked this guy to get Trump. This is the deliberate politicization of the Justice Department. And then there are the attacks against Elon Musk.
Attorney General Garland, Elon Musk was a Democrat who admittedly supported Biden, but then he became a critic of the administration and exposed the censorship regime. Now, per public reports, the DOJ has opened not one but two investigations of Elon Musk. Mark Zuckerberg, on the other hand, spent $400 million in 2020 tilting the elections secretly for Democrats. No investigations whatsoever. To the American public, these look like mafia tactics. You pays your money, we look the other way. You get in our way, we punish you. The American public sees what these tactics are.
Now, sneaky Merrick Garland never even answers this question. This isn't about Hunter or Joe Biden. This is a completely separate case, and he still does not answer. It seems like a simple question to me. We have two people, the head of Facebook and the head of Twitter. One is a Democrat and one is a Republican. Well, would you look at that? The Republican is under two investigations by the Department of Justice. That's the definition of a two-tiered system of justice. Once again, Merrick Garland is a liar. What is happening to Elon Musk should scare everyone. It's so unfair. And if it could happen to the richest man on the planet, just imagine what the government can do to you. Then we get to the protests on January 6th. There are people who are still being held in prison without charges over 2 years later. How is that fair in comparison? Just this month, a group of 7 protesters stormed House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's office. They were protesting that Congress was not doing enough for HIV prevention. But so far, there's no indication that they are receiving the same treatment as the January 6 protesters. Are these 7 people going to be held for years in prison without receiving charges? If not, that is unfair. Here's what Merrick Garland had to say.
Now, in that video, that was your answer to a question to me 2 years ago. When I said how many agents or assets of the government were present on January 5th and January 6th and agitating in the crowd to go into the Capitol and how many went into the Capitol. Can you answer that now?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Oh, last time, you don't know how many there were or there were none?
I don't know the answer to either of those questions. If there were any, I don't know how many. I don't know whether there are any.
I think you may have just perjured yourself that you don't know that there were any. You want to say that again? That you don't know that there were
I have
any?
no personal knowledge of this matter. I think what I said the last time.
You've had 2 years to find out. And today, by the way, that was in reference to Ray Epps, and yesterday you indicted him. Isn't that a wonderful coincidence? On a misdemeanor. Meanwhile, you're sending grandmas to prison. You're putting people away for 20 years for merely filming. Some people weren't even there yet. You've got the guy on video who's saying go into the Capitol. He's directing people to the Capitol before the speech ends. He's at the site of the first breach. You've got all the goods on him, 10 videos, and it's an indictment for a misdemeanor? The American public isn't buying it.
Merrick Garland just perjured himself. If he was doing his job, he would arrest himself. He's a liar. Of course he knows that there were undercover FBI informants in the crowd. It's a matter of court record, and he knows this. He just blatantly lied under oath by saying he does not know if there were undercover agents when he knows that there were. This whole testimony, he's lying. He's lying over here. He's lying over there. I say, liar, liar, pants on fire. And then we get to the Catholics. When Merrick Garland was questioned whether the Department of Justice was targeting Catholics, here's what he said.
Through the chair, I ask you, do you agree that traditional Catholics are violent extremists?
I have no idea what the traditional means here. The idea. Let me just.
Catholics, go to church.
May I answer your question?
Yes or no?
The idea that someone with my family background would discriminate against any religion is so outrageous, so absurd.
Mr. Attorney General, it was your FBI that did this. It was your FBI that was sending, and we have the memos, we have the emails, we're sending undercover agents into Catholic churches.
Both I and the director of the FBI have said that we were appalled. Have said that we were appalled by that memo.
So then you agree that they're not extremists?
We were appalled by that memo.
Are they extremists or not, Attorney General?
I think that
Are they extremists or not, Attorney General?
everything in that memo is
Are they
appalling.
extremists or not? I'm asking a simple question. Say no if you think that was wrong.
Catholics are not extremists. No.
Was anyone fired for drafting and circulating the anti-Catholic memo?
You have in front of you the inspection division's investigation.
Just tell me yes or no, please.
I don't know.
We have no time.
I don't know the answer to that.
Why does he have such a hard time saying it? Catholics are not extremists. Of course they're not. What is his problem? Something else that he failed to mention here was that just this week, the same week as this testimony, pro-life activists were jailed for blocking the entrance to an abortion clinic and are facing 11 years in prison. To put this in context, the median time served in prison for someone who commits murder is 13.4 years. These 2 old ladies are facing almost the same sentence as murderers. Due to their age, these ladies are likely going to die in prison. How is this justice in America? Merrick Garland, are you really going to bring up your relatives who died in the Holocaust? How are you going to explain to your ancestors that these are the faces of your Justice Department? These are the people you are putting in prison for the rest of their lives because of their religious beliefs. Merrick Garland is a liar who has destroyed the Department of Justice in this country. He deserves to be impeached. In summary, in America, there are people being sent to prison for their political beliefs. This coming presidential election is becoming about getting people out of jail who shouldn't be there. Jail is supposed to be for violent criminals, murderers, bank robbers, not people who think there was cheating in the election. Depending on who you vote for is going to determine whether these people are unfairly imprisoned for the rest of their lives, including former President Donald Trump. Now I want to hear from you. This is very important. I want you to put in the comments if you think that Merrick Garland is a liar. Also, coming up this Wednesday, I will be doing a live stream at 7 p.m. Phoenix time. So come check out my channel if you want to chat with me live. If you can't make it, you can always watch it after the fact. And a big shout out to my channel members. I feel like no one in mainstream is covering this information, but we cover it here thanks to your support. For $6 a month, you can sign up to help support the channel on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.
Angel, liar, liar, angel, 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 liar, liar, you're liar, liar, angel. Angel, angel, you're liar, liar, angel, liar, liar.